All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share a part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Through the gifts of technology, we also gather virtually to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Welcome to all those who are joining us in this way today. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls, arise. My friends, my church, my beloved community, good morning. Good morning. My name is Joseph Davis. I'm a member of the community, have been since 2005. I'm looking forward to today. One of the most beautiful documents I've ever read in my life is the current Humanist Manifesto. I would encourage all to look at that after what I'm sure is going to be a remarkable conversation about it today. Welcome all of you out there in the land of virtuosity and ones and zeros and YouTube and what have you. If we have any visitors today, could you stand and say hello? I think the ushers will have a gift for you. Would you care to introduce yourself? You can say hi where you are, man. Oh, you're sitting down. All right. Well, it looks like we're just all of us in the community who are here. I'm going to go ahead and turn over the opening words to Kendyl.
Out of the stars in their flight, out of the dust of eternity, here have we come. Stardust and sunlight, mingling through time and through space. Out of the stars have we come. Time out of time, before time, in the vastness of space. Earth spun to orbit the sun, earth with the thunder of mountains newborn, the boiling of seas, earth warmed by sun, lit by sunlight, this is our home. Out of the stars have we come. Mystery, hidden in mystery, back through all time, mystery rising from rocks in the storm and the sea. Out of the stars, rising from rocks and the sea, kindled by sunlight on earth, arose life. Ponder this thing in your heart. Ponder with awe. Out of the sea to the land, out of the shallows came ferns. Out of the sea to the land, up from the darkness to light, rising to walk and to fly. Out of the sea trembled life. Ponder this thing in your heart, life up from the sea, eyes to behold, throats to sing, mates to love. Life from the sea, warmed by sun, washed by rain. Life from within, giving birth, rose to love. This is the wonder of time. This is the marvel of space. Out of the stars swung the earth. Life upon earth rose to love. This is the marvel of our humanity, rising to see and to know. Out of your heart, cry wonder and sing that we live. Good morning and welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church of Kansas City, a congregation gathered more than 150 years ago by seekers who longed for a community of faith based upon freedom of thought and the realities of human knowledge. They bequeath to us this institution, trusting us to carry on the light they sought to kindle in this new city on the prairie. Today we gather in this space made sacred by the aspiration, curiosity, and commitment of many generations, and dedicated to that longing for a faith of reason, liberty, and confidence in the human spirit. In grateful recognition of those founders and in celebration of the light sustained by this community over many years, we kindle once more the chalice of our free faith. May it summon us again into the presence of our own highest aspirations and renew our dedication to the service of the common good.
Good morning, my name is Tori, and I light this chalice for the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
Now would you rise as you are willing and able, and let us speak once again the words of our covenant promise in community. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And please remain standing for our opening song. Now, in recognition of our young people and their chaperones and Reverend Aaron, who are today in Boston on their coming-of-age pilgrimage to the city of our founding and our national headquarters, I invite you to breathe for a second and think about whether there has ever been a time when you have found yourself in a place or a space where you are particularly aware of your religious heritage or your religious community. I remember about 9 years ago when I made a trip to visit our partner church in Romania, which used to be Transylvania, and our hosts took us to the cathedral in Alba Iulia, where the one Unitarian king in history, King John Sigismund, and his mother, Izabela Jagiellon of Poland, are entombed. And I got dust from Isabella's marble tomb on my t-shirt, and it was with me the whole rest of the day. And I was very conscious. I wished I had brought flowers for her, but I didn't know how strongly I was going to be affected by being in that place. And so I wonder if you've ever had that experience of being in a place that made you feel connected to your heritage. And then if you would turn to someone close by and maybe share a little bit of where that space was and what that experience was like for you. And Daniel will call us back together with some music in a few moments.
I'm sure that's a conversation that could go on forever and a day. Wasn't it? I bet there was some really heavy stuff shared. I know I shared with Kendyl my experiences as alumni at Benedictine College, a profoundly Catholic college. So, at any rate, it is time to send our children off, and as usual, we will send them off to their classes with song. It is that time where, in the service where we offer our time, talent, and now our treasure. And this also reminds me I need to catch up on my pledge. But yeah, what we do here, I think, is so important as we're about to continue the conversation about humanism. And I think what we also do here is we serve as an oasis for a place to rejuvenate and resist what we know is going on out there in the world. And so in order to do that, we have to keep the doors open, and knowing that the offering will now be gratefully given and gratefully received. And now, church, let's dedicate the offering, shall we? We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful and caring community, to inspire and personal spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society.
This is from the Humanist Manifesto, first edition, published in the year of 1933. The time has come for widespread recognition of the radical changes in religious beliefs throughout the modern world. The time is past for the mere revision of traditional attitudes. Science and economic change have disrupted the old beliefs. Religions the world over are under the necessity of coming to terms with new conditions created by a vastly increased knowledge and experience. In every field of human activity, the vital movement is now the direction of a candid and explicit humanism. In order that religious humanism may better be understood, we, the undersigned, desire to make certain affirmations, which we believe the facts of our contemporary life demonstrate. There is a great danger of a final, and we believe fatal, identification of the word religion with doctrines and methods which have lost their significance and are powerless to solve the problem of human living in the 20th century. Religions have always been means for realizing the highest values of life. Their end has been accomplished through the interpretation of the total environing situation, the sense of values resulting therefrom, and the technique established for realizing the satisfactory life. A change in any of these factors results in alteration of the outward forms of religion. This fact explains the changefulness of religions through the centuries. But through all changes, religion itself remains constant in its quest for abiding values, an inseparable feature of human life.
have a seat. This is going to be a minute. In 1857, Rabbi Samuel Adler, a leader of the Reform movement in Judaism, and his family emigrated from Germany to the United States, where Samuel had been invited to serve as the rabbi at Temple Emmanuel in New York. His then 7-year-old son Felix would grow up in American schools, graduate from Columbia University in 1870, and return to Germany for his PhD, which he received at Heidelberg University as part of what was expected to be his preparation for following his father's footsteps into the rabbinate and ultimately taking over leadership of the prestigious New York congregation. Unfortunately for this plan, the heritage of religious reform and the influence of neo-Kantian metaphysics led the young scholar to return to his father's congregation, espousing a radical interpretation not only of the Jewish tradition, but of religion as a whole. After his first sermon in his father's pulpit, it was clear to the community's leadership that Felix was not going to be their next rabbi. Nevertheless, a handful of them were intrigued by his bold thinking, so they came together and assembled the financial means to create a new congregation within which his ideas about an innovative contemporary form of non-theistic religion could be put into practice. In 1877, they incorporated as the Society for Ethical Culture, which founded a program of visiting nurses to the city's poor, as well as a free kindergarten for children of indigent families. Adler delivered a series of lectures on Sunday mornings in which he described his vision of a religious community based upon a shared aspiration toward personal and social ethical behavior. He accepted a teaching position at Cornell University, where he soon came under attack as an atheist, despite the popularity of his lectures among students. In 1902, he became a professor of political and social ethics at Columbia University, where he continued to teach until his death in 1933. Adler and his ethical culture congregation were active in social justice reforms and advocacy work in early 20th century New York. They supplied hot meals and clothing to needy students in their free kindergarten. They worked for the abolition of child labor and the improvement of tenement housing. Adler himself helped to establish the American Civil Liberties Union and served as a member of the first executive board of the National Urban League. He came to oppose what he considered unjustified American military adventurism and imperialist expansionism in the Caribbean and the Philippines. While he promoted ethical idealism and the commitment of deeds, not creeds, Adler maintained that human beings benefited from the social connections of religious community, as well as the inspiration and comfort of non-supernatural rituals. The idea of ethical culture societies had spread to other cities, including Philadelphia, Chicago, and St. Louis by the turn of the century. As far as I've been able to determine, Adler never identified himself or his organization as humanist, nor was he a signer of the first Humanist Manifesto, which was issued the year he died in 1933. His goal was not to eradicate religion, but to acknowledge its authentic structure and function in human society, and to create a community in which those functions would be performed with awareness and thoughtful intention. He saw ethical culture as the future not only of Judaism, but of all historical religious traditions, when their adherents should come to understand them accurately. Although he seems not to have identified with it personally, Adler was in fact part of a cultural movement and a moment to which he gave perhaps the most explicit and enduring expression, which was the rise of contemporary humanism. His was not the only attempt to establish an institutional form for these kinds of ideas, although it may have been among the most successful and enduring. During the latter years of the 19th century, American Unitarianism was engaged with questions of how Christian, how biblical, and how theistic its churches and ministers and members should have to be in order to remain in good standing with their national organization. The same issues arose here at All Souls Congregation, where in 1897, Reverend John Emerson Roberts, an ex-Baptist who had been called as an advocate for theism and traditional Christianity, resigned as minister of the congregation in order to establish a new religious community that he called the Church of this World. More than half the members of All Souls departed with him on this adventure, leaving the remaining members to dark and struggling days, according to one historian. They survived by renting out and ultimately selling their building. Without the endowment that facilitated Adler's first ethical culture society, Roberts' Church of this World failed to thrive. Attendance at its Sunday morning lectures diminished until it ended after 3 decades with his retirement in 1930. This cautionary tale did not prevent the Reverend Leon Burkhead from building an audience for his Sunday lectures on the dangers of rising fascism in Europe beginning in 1917 that far outstripped the church's seating capacity and changing its name to the Liberal Center. Once again, the lecture audience proved unable to sustain an enduring institution, and the remnant of the congregation again faced the task of rebuilding a viable church. Since its original appearance 90 years ago, the Humanist Manifesto has undergone several revisions and republications, in part to bring it up to date in contemporary language, and in part to either claim or seek to refute public perceptions about the nature of humanism. Here are some words from the third Humanist Manifesto.
From the Humanist Manifesto, 3rd edition, 2003. Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that, without supernaturalism, affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. The life stance of humanism, guided by reason, inspired by compassion, and informed by experience, encourages us to live life well and fully. It evolved through the ages and continues to develop through the efforts of thoughtful people who recognize that values and ideals, however carefully wrought, are subject to change as our knowledge and understandings advance. This document is part of an ongoing effort to manifest in clear and positive terms the conceptual boundaries of humanism, not what we must believe, but a consensus of what we do believe. It is in this sense that we affirm the following. Knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experimentation, and rational analysis. Humanists find that science is the best method for determining this knowledge, as well as for solving problems and developing beneficial technologies. We also recognize the value of new departures in thought, the arts, and inner experience, each subject to analysis by critical intelligence. Humans are an integral part of nature, the result of unguided evolutionary change. Humanists recognize nature as self-existing. We accept our life as all and enough, distinguishing things as they are from things as we might wish or imagine them to be. We welcome the challenges of the future and are drawn to and undaunted by the yet to be known. Working to benefit society maximizes individual happiness. Progressive cultures have worked to free humanity from the brutalities of mere survival and to reduce suffering, improve society, and develop global community. We seek to minimize the inequities of circumstance and ability, and we support a just distribution of nature's resources and the fruits of human effort, so that as many as possible can enjoy a good life. Humanists are concerned for the well-being of all, are committed to diversity, and respect those of differing yet humane views. We work to uphold the equal enjoyment of human rights and civil liberties in an open, secular society, and maintain it as a civic duty to participate in the democratic process and a planetary duty to protect nature's integrity, diversity, and beauty in a secure, sustainable manner. Thus, engaged in the flow of life, we aspire to this vision with the informed conviction that humanity has the ability to progress toward its highest ideals. The responsibility for our lives and the kind of world in which we live is ours and ours alone.
It is no surprise historically that I, growing up in the Unitarian Universalism of the mid-20th century, should have come to identify myself as a religious humanist, much along the lines of Felix Adler, although I did not know of his existence, let alone anything about his ideas, until I embarked upon my seminary education. It is perhaps less to be expected that this church, established in Kansas City before the emergence of modern humanism, should today be regarded as one of the historically humanist congregations within the UUA. Probably some of you, like me, take a certain gratification from that identity, which I would suggest makes it worth asking ourselves, if not for the first time, then again, what does it mean to be a humanist? When we subscribe to that identity as a congregation, what are we claiming for and about ourselves? What resources does that identity offer us? And what kind of accountability does it ask of us? What is it that we want to teach in this pulpit and to achieve together as a community? Of course, these questions do not have pat answers. Indeed, they have engaged the attention of some very fine minds for a century and a half right here, and I do not expect to dispose of them neatly this morning. Nevertheless, I think there are at least 4 things we can be assured about what it means to embrace a humanist identity. It means, first of all, that we own a history together. Second, it means that we affirm a certain set of core values, specifically freedom, reason, and respect. A third implication is that we are engaged in a process of ongoing inquiry. And finally, it means that our conduct in all settings and circumstances will be seen as representative of how humanists generally think and behave. Let's unpack each of these 4 elements a bit. A humanist identity partly consists of a particular history that we adopt as our own. It is not a specific national or ethnic or even institutional history. Rather, it is the story of a cluster of ideas as they emerge and grow and are suppressed and reemerge in various places and moments of human society over time. These ideas include the fundamental equality of human beings with one another, the capacity of the human mind, and the process of reason increasingly to understand the nature of the universe, the necessity of individual freedom as a precondition for a just society, and the expectation of happiness and fulfillment in this life and this world. These ideas can be traced across cultures and eras and continents, Wherever they grow bright and become influential, we humanists find our ancestors. We find them among the philosophers of ancient Greece who dismissed the gods and turned to examine the stuff of the world and the idea of a good life. We find them among the early sages of the Far East who advocated self-awareness, compassion, and impersonal cosmic forces. We find them among the scholars and artists of the European Renaissance who loved the beauty of the world and questioned the authority of the churches. We find them among the scientists and inventors of the Enlightenment who created a method of self-correcting knowledge, and among the revolutionaries who insisted upon the rights of humanity and the iniquity of both slavery and kings. We find our forebears among the courageous reformers who have challenged tradition and public opinion in order to change long-standing injustices. We find them among the skeptical thinkers who disprove superstitions, who unmask pious frauds, who dare to imagine a world without gods. Every time an institution is founded for the purpose of increasing knowledge and advancing reason, we see the influence of humanism at work. Every time a community gathers in the name of simple humanity to celebrate the wonders of this world and the possibilities of this life, we see the light of humanism spread. To have a humanist identity is to claim this history as one's own, to see yourself as a participant in this tide of freedom and reason, contributing your share to its work, rejoicing as it gains ground. This is our story, not of ultimate salvation, but for the progress of and hope for humanity. A humanist identity grounds itself in this story. A humanist identity also carries these values into our lives in the present day. We affirm our humanism in the practices of freedom, reason, and respect, both in our own personal behavior and also in the principles that we support in our culture and society. Humanism begins with the surprisingly daring proposition that ordinary individuals are the best judges of what will make them happy, and that to a very great extent, people should be allowed to do whatever it is they think is most likely to make them happy. This freedom has limits, of course, where it impinges on the freedom or well-being of others, but it teaches us in a fundamental way that as we do not wish for anyone else to impose their views on us for our own good, so we must not seek to impose our views where they are not shared. Now, this principle says nothing about making our views as attractive and persuasive as we can. Indeed, at the heart of freedom is the discipline of persuasion. We are called upon to be able to explain why our convictions make sense in a way that someone else can understand, and we can expect our ideas to prevail only if we can gain the free assent of our neighbors and fellow citizens. This can be a demanding discipline, and the use of force is always a tempting option when we think we know what the right answer obviously is. Yet a true humanist identity requires us to protect not only our own liberty, but everyone else's, in the knowledge that we are only as safe in our freedom of thought and conviction as the least powerful and disenfranchised minorities are also free. Side by side with our commitment to freedom stands our insistence upon the guiding power of reason. This is not to say that all our experiences or even all our decisions are perfectly rational. No human being has ever achieved such a state, and in some sense, to do so would be to cast off the organic nature of our existence. We recognize that we are creatures of instinct and impulse, of needs and yearnings that are not always logical, and humanism teaches us to be content with that reality, not to seek to transcend it into some realm of disembodied ideas and perfection. But notwithstanding this embrace of our wholeness and finitude, we remain committed to the ways that logic, reason, and understanding can help us live better and happier lives. To think carefully, to act rationally, to approach the world with a healthy scientific curiosity, all these make it more likely that we will be able to live as we would wish and create fulfillment for ourselves and others. Moreover, we find that knowing how things work is a fulfillment in itself. Our curiosity is both instrumental and also intellectual, and our minds have satisfaction in knowledge for its own sake. Additionally, as important as reason is to the development of the individual mind, we also find it indispensable as a public discipline. To make collective decisions for the common good, it is necessary to have a conversation in which facts are accurately reported and the logical consequences of actions are thoughtfully considered. In the absence of reason, tyranny of one form or another becomes inevitable. Out of these two considerations of freedom and reason emerges the principle of respect, that every person must be free to follow wisdom and conscience where it leads, and that one who claims a humanist identity is committed always to treating their fellow beings as having an essential, irreducible dignity. We learn from one another, from each other's ideas, each other's mistakes, each other's examples, both good and bad. We do not believe that some are saved and some are damned, that certain people are special and others are expendable. A humanist identity calls upon its adherents to honor the common humanity in every person and to model tolerance and engagement with views other than our own. This responsibility as a model raises a third element of humanist identity, which is the recognition that when we claim to be humanists, then everything we do, everywhere we go, is viewed by the public as a demonstration of what humanism is about. Whether we are rude or gracious to those who serve us, whether we are responsible or careless with our promises, whether we do business fairly, how we treat our spouses, our children, and friends, the way we function in the political arena, how we respond to crisis and challenge when they come, the way we cope with disappointment or loss, our capacity for creativity, even the very balance and order of our lives, all make a statement about humanism as a philosophy and a faith. To have a humanist identity is to accept the responsibility for representing our fellow humanists and the movement as a whole. It is to agree that the consequences of a humanist perspective are demonstrated by how we conduct ourselves. If our behavior in any circumstance reflects poorly upon us, it is not just our own characters that are tarnished, but also the public perception of what humanism, whose adherents we claim to be, is about. Finally, to have a humanist identity is to be engaged in a continuing process of inquiry about the world and ourselves and the best way to live. It means being at peace within ourselves about the fact that we do not have all the answers to all the dilemmas of the human condition, and that even the answers we think we do have are always subject to reconsideration in the light of new information. It is to accept and embrace change as the one enduring quality of reality. It is to abandon the quest for perfection, permanence, certainty. It is this acknowledgement of all that we do not know, which Socrates would have called true wisdom, that saves us, if we abide by its disciplines, from hubris and arrogance. We are watchers on the shore of wonder along with all our human relations, and every acre we gain on the island of knowledge makes that much shoreline for our further exploration. Merely claiming to be a humanist is not in itself an accomplishment. Only if our humanism makes us wise and honest and modest, compassionate and gracious, only if it motivates us to learn, to create, and to serve, only if it makes us eager for freedom and faithful to our covenants, is it anything to brag about. And indeed, if it does all that, there will be no need to brag, for the value of a humanist identity will be clearly apparent for all to see. It is in the service of these aspirations that we gather here every week, helping one another to learn and to remember these essential qualities of what it really means to be a humanist, pausing in the whirl of our daily activities and responsibilities to ask how we are doing with regard to these ideals. We are star stuff, my friends, risen into consciousness for this brief moment of opportunity to know ourselves and the glorious, complex enormity of the universe in which we have our being. To be a humanist is to carry that awareness into the lives we lead, into the relationships we conduct, into the work we do, into the communities we touch. Let our humanist identity gather us here, releasing the creative spirit among us and the power of transformation into the world, so that we may indeed bring peace and hope and gratitude, that we may be renewed in courage and dedication to the highest good we know. Among the aspects of religious heritage that Felix Adler valued was traditional music, particularly hymns. He wrote new verses to classical hymns for his congregation to sing together, expressing the aspiration for an ethically admirable life. Let us all join together in that hope for ourselves. Will you rise and sing with me?
Into my heart today fills me with new hope and courage, lights the path along my way. On then bravely, on serenely, forward the King let me fare. Let me use the golden moments as they glide so swiftly by. Fill them with a fruit so precious, truth and love and knowledge high. Forward then each day serenely, so to live be my great care. When as evening shadows deepen, kindling stars my conduct ask. May I look athwart and tell them I have finished well my task. On then bravely, on serenely, forward the King I will fare.
But not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fires of commitment. These we send forth out into the world and carry in our minds and hearts until we are together again. Now, there is finally only one thing required of us, and that is to take life whole, the bright and dark together, to live the life that is given us with courage and humor and truth. We have such a little moment out of the vastness of time for all our wondering and loving. Therefore, let there be no half-heartedness. Rather, let the soul be ardent in its pain, in its yearning, in its praise. Then shall peace enfold our days, and glory shall not fade from our lives.